Those of you who know me know I don't really have a side in this politics thing anymore. Both camps left me behind. But this week we have to dissect, has Donald Trump gone too far? And I'm glad that people in his own party are starting to call him out, but is it enough? Hello, good people. This has been an insane news week, but the focus of this video will be very specific. It will be on something I should have discussed a long time ago, which is Trump derangement syndrome, which is a term that gets thrown around a lot, especially now. It gets thrown around like candy. Plus, guess which logical fallacy Donald Trump used when he blamed Rob Reiner's death on TDS, Trump derangement syndrome? Just to get you caught up, beloved director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle Singer Reiner, they were in their home in a brutal attack. Their son, Nick, has been charged. He has a history of mental health and addiction. It's been an ongoing problem. Now, Rob Reiner was a national treasure. He was meathead in All in the Family way back. And since then, he has directed some of our favorite childhood movies, like The Princess Bride and A Few Good Men, for those of you very serious children out there. And his talent and his range were truly unique. And many Americans who appreciated his work will miss him, will absolutely miss him. Also, he hated Donald Trump. He hated him. He would post about it a lot. In fact, his Twitter distinguishes him, a husband, father, and proud supporter of the Constitution and the rule of law, unlike some people. Who are those people? Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump is the sitting U.S. president. We are not going to go into why that is right now. I have spoken at length on Donald Trump, both for him or explaining him and against him. But here we are. Okay. It's kind of like asking, why is my car stuck in the mud? Instead of, how do I get my car out of the mud? We can't just rehash why Donald Trump is president. I know a lot of people are in shock. So Trump, the sitting US president, posted this about beloved director Rob Reiner and his wife, who were brutally slain, perhaps allegedly by their own son. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with the mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. Capitalize that. Sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, referring to himself in the third person here, because that's healthy. That's always healthy. With his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Where is this golden age? I'm waiting for it. I am no longer shocked by what the president says. To me, this was actually to be expected. He has never shown an ounce of grace toward anyone who has ever slighted him. This is part of his character. Now, a few obvious things about the statement, this part here, he was known to have driven people crazy. Which people? You? His son had mental and substance abuse issues. I'm sure he wasn't on his father's Twitter like, oh my God, I can't believe what my dad said about President Trump. Nothing to do with this. Now, this statement is tacky for a few reasons. First, most people are not terminally online, so Trump looks insane by posting this. They know Reiner from his work, not from his Twitter briefs. Two, most people, including Republicans, they are putting politics aside for the passing of this legend. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ted Cruz have both condemned Trump and said kind words about Reiner. Everybody said kind words about him. And I see a lot of, I don't agree with Reiner's politics, but this is a terrible tragedy. A lot of comments like that. And here is the thing. Conservatives actually wish death on their enemies less than liberals do. They have done studies, and it's very few of them who think that their opponents should die for thinking differently. This is actually from a YouGov poll. Completely separate. It is true that liberal Americans are more likely than conservatives to defend feeling joy about the deaths of political opponents. 16% of liberals say this is usually or always acceptable, including 24% of those who say their ideology is very liberal, and 10% who say they are liberal but not very liberal. That compares to 4% of conservatives and 7% of moderates. So good on conservatives, right? Trump is actually in the slim minority of American conservatives by gloating over the death of a political enemy. It's actually insane. What Trump posted, it comes off as callous, it comes off as unsportsmanlike. But those two words describe President Trump to a T. Let's be honest. You let me know in the comments, do you think this will be the thing that finally makes people in MAGA question their loyalty to the dear leader? It is such a clear violation of their own values. What stands out to me the most in this Trump post is the use of the term Trump derangement syndrome. It has taken on a life of its own. And yes, there are some people out there who believe the absolute worst about President Trump, Rob Reiner included, and they're often fed news stories from far left media outlets like bordering on yellow journalism that Trump is worse than Hitler. And I knew someone who actually said when Trump was elected that this is the worst thing our country has ever done. And I'm like, girl, calm down. Iraq was just 20 minutes ago. Trump might be in the top 10 worst things, but it is far from the worst thing we've ever done. And maybe there was a use for the term Trump derangement syndrome at one point, but it has completely gotten out of hand. It has taken on a life of its own. Now, every single criticism of Donald Trump is seen as Trump derangement syndrome. His followers don't ever have to entertain any critique of Trump because once they say it's Trump derangement syndrome, they can just ignore whatever you say. What's going on in Venezuela? Trump derangement syndrome. Didn't he say we'd have healthcare by now? Trump derangement syndrome. Didn't he say he would solve Ukraine in a day? Trump derangement syndrome. Don't even bring up January 6th or what went on there. Trump derangement syndrome. Trump derangement syndrome. MAGA is never, ever beating these cult allegations if they keep saying Trump derangement syndrome at every criticism. I have made videos where I simply do not praise the dear leader, and guess what I have in the comments? Guess what they say? I have Trump derangement syndrome. Now, a lot of this is just low IQ people and children who they hear a term or a slogan and they use that to form their thinking because they are incapable of critical thinking without slogans. We've been over this many times before. It's like if you criticized Obama for using drone strikes to kill people outside of the Constitution and someone just said, well, you're racist. That's a racist thing to say. It's like, no, it's a very specific criticism of his use of powers. Children do this all the time. They hear something online or from older siblings and they use it as insults on the playground, clearly not understanding what the term means. Someone called my skinny little niece a big back. And I'm just like, that's not, you do want to kick this 10-year-old down the slide, but before you do it, you want to explain why they are being stupid. But then once you explain for so long why they're being stupid, it's pretty tacky to kick them down the slide, even if they deserve it. Plus, I'm an adult. Now, I'll excuse that in children, but when it's adults throwing around slogans and cliches and platitudes in place of actual dialogue, I do want to kick them down that slide. I really do. But then you've got to explain why this grown-ass adult needs to climb to the top of the slide. And it's too much. I'm not going to do it. Now, Trump derangement syndrome has been a term that has been so overused that it no longer has a relevant meaning. This truth post about TDS is basically, it's jumping the shark. Rob Reiner, by all accounts, was loved by family, by friends, and anyone who wasn't insane. And he did everything for his son Nick, by the way, including make a movie about him. He was a good dad. And he also let him sleep in the guest house. So this man was not killed for his Trump derangement syndrome. Just stop it. Seriously, how hard is it to write RIP? Just RIP and nothing else. It is literally the okay of statements. We know what you're thinking because we know that you're petty, but just keep it classy for these few minutes. Trump cannot do that. It is not in his nature. Now, the logical fallacy that Trump is falling into is thinking that Rob Reiner deserved his death. This is also something that low IQ people and children in Hollywood films are very, very guilty of. They think that anything that happens to a person is their karma, that they did something immoral, and this is like divine justice. Well, guess what? It's not. That's not how the world works. Bad things happen to good people all the time for no reason. Does he think that the people of Sudan deserve what's happening to them? Get the f*** out of here. Justice is a thing that humans invented and humans enforce. Divine justice? Where? You learn to talk to animals, Dr. Dolittle style, and you tell them about justice. They will literally laugh in your face. If you believe that there is a God, a just God that is running the world, which is fine if you believe that, despite all the evidence to the contrary, the correct platitude for this situation is, we cannot know the mind of God. That is what you say to a grieving family member, and you tap them on the shoulder and you have nothing to add. You just want them to feel better because they're crying a lot, and you say, we cannot know the mind of God. Or shit happens if you are super tacky, but not Trump level tacky, because that's incredibly tacky. Now, I'd love a we cannot know the mind of God from this president. It is literally the easiest thing, the least that he could do for his own nation. Looking at this post, Trump makes the assumption that because Reiner had driven him crazy, that was somehow the cause of his death. Now, by this point, the authorities already knew what caused Reiner's death. So you're telling me that the president of the United States doesn't have this information, but People magazine did? This is a really deranged post, and I expect more from this man. It is truly, truly narcissistic to equate your own dislike for a person with some kind of divine justice as if Trump himself is God. You know who else was murdered by their son in Los Angeles just a few days before this? Singer Jubilant Sykes. It's a shockingly similar story. It's actually crazy. Just days before Reiner. Did he deserve it? He didn't have Trump derangement syndrome. Okay, this is a quick insert. All I'm going to say about this. It's just, I don't like this level in the simulation where just before Christmas, there are two high-profile cases of the son stabbing the father to death. Christmas is supposed to be about the celebration of the father sending the son to earth. And this is like an inversion of that. I'm not saying it's related at all, but in the novel, in the mythology that is the real world, I don't like this chapter. And it has literally nothing to do with Trump derangement syndrome. I am just saying that I don't like this part of the simulation. It has gotten very, very dark. Okay, unfortunately, family violence is very common in America. People are killed by their relatives all the time. And the relatives, they don't deserve it. It happens to Republicans. It happens to Democrats. It happens to people who don't care about politics at all. You know what the conversation we should be having, is, why are these people who are suffering from such obvious mental health problems just out on the street? Why have we closed down the asylums? It's not just family, though that is a major problem because you do have to deal with your family. It's everywhere, it seems like. We're seeing all kinds of unhinged lunatics commit these violent crimes on strangers even, like the stabbing in the Charlotte subway, or the lunatic who set that woman on fire in the Chicago subway. Like, why are they out on the streets? Why do we pay so much money for these social services and there are no asylums for these dangerous people or these mentally ill people who are not dangerous? Why is the care put on their families, and even very wealthy families are not able to adequately care for them? Like, what hope do the rest of us have? Like, look at what hope do we have? So RIP Rob and Michelle Reiner, and RIP Jubilant Sykes. This was terrible news. And I hope the families, they can have some kind of semblance of a holiday, but it'll probably just make the holidays that much worse. Also, let's retire Trump derangement syndrome as a term. It is so oversaturated that it is useless now. Anyway, I hope you all have a very, very Merry Christmas with your families, with your friends, with your pets. Light a candle and say a prayer for all of those people who didn't make it. I will see you next time.